Trump's Big Beautiful Bill and Drones. The reconciliation package, formerly titled the One Big Beautiful Bill Act OBBBA, is best known for its tax provisions. But it also embeds an expansive suite of unmanned systems funding that could reshape the U.S. drone ecosystem for years to come. Below is a focused review of the bill's drone-related elements and their likely impact on the commercial and dual-use market. At a glance, funding lines. Section 20,005. Scaling low-cost weapons into production. Funding. $13.5 billion mandatory. Segment affected. Small UAS industrial base. AI/autonomy test and integration. Commercial/dual-use impact creates demand signals for domestic sUAS makers and component suppliers. Funds rapid prototyping programs that traditionally tap non-traditional vendors. Collaborative Combat Aircraft CCA program top line. Funding. $9 billion through FY29. Segment affected. Air Force Loyal Wingman Drones. Commercial/dual-use impact. Sustains venture-backed autonomy firms and primes pursuing reusable fighter-sized drones. Drives avionics and sensor integration standards useful to advanced civil UAVs. One-way attack UAS rapid fielding. Funding. $1 billion for industrial base plus $50 million for autonomy. Segment affected. Attritable loitering munitions. Commercial/dual-use impact. Expands manufacturing of airframes, power systems, and guidance packages that can migrate to expendable inspection or emergency response drones. AI for aerial and naval UAS. Funding. $145 million. Segment affected. Edge AI modules. Maritime UAS. Commercial dual-use impact. Accelerates mil-spec compute platforms that may later enable BVLOS obstacle avoidance and ship-to-shore logistics. Naval autonomy and robotics in shipbuilding. Funding. $450 million. Segment affected. Uncrewed surface/undersea vehicles. Commercial/dual-use impact. Bolsters USV/UUV control system suppliers. Spurs common autopilot architectures transferable to offshore energy and port security markets. Border surveillance towers and biometric tech. Funding. $6.17 billion for CBP modern surveillance. INCL. Autonomous towers. Segment affected. Persistent ISR towers. Counter UAS. Analytics. Commercial/dual-use impact. Drives demand for long-endurance payload-ready multicopters, radar-equipped aerostats, and AI video analytics. Open service contract opportunities for drone-as-a-service vendors. Advanced Surveillance Sensors CBP. Funding. $2.77 billion for cutting-edge technologies. Segment affected. Imaging, LiDAR, SIGINT payloads. Commercial/dual-use impact. Volume purchases of EO/IR and RF sensors will lower unit costs for civil infrastructure inspection and emergency management sectors. Industrial base expansion. Section 20,005 earmarks $13.5 billion to expand the capacity of the small UAS industrial base and to scale low-cost, attritable weapon systems. The language mirrors the Pentagon's Replicator initiative and explicitly invites commercial suppliers to compete, signaling a sustained procurement pull for domestic airframes, flight controllers, and secure data links. For U.S. startups that have previously relied on discretionary spur contracts, this is a rare supply chain scale capital infusion. Collaborative Combat Aircraft and Autonomy R&D. The Air Force's CCA roadmap anticipates $9 billion through FY 2029 to field at least 1,000 loyal wingman drones flying alongside F-35 and NG-80 fighters. Defense justification books break out $392 million in FY24, $513 million in FY25, and a growing out-year wedge. Because the program stresses open mission system interfaces, avionics, and AI stack vendors serving the commercial UAV market will see increased opportunity to harden and certify their software for contested airspace, loitering munitions, and attritable platforms. Reflecting lessons from Ukraine, the bill injects $1 billion to expand the kamikaze drone industrial base, and an additional $50 million for autonomy that raises one-way UAS from remote piloted to supervised autonomous capability. Manufacturing lines built for these airframes can pivot to produce inexpensive survey, or first responder drones once export rules allow, lowering entry costs for civilian operators. Maritime robotics. A separate $450 million line funds AI-enabled autonomy in naval shipbuilding, with specific reference to unmanned surface and undersea vehicles. Commercial spillover is expected in offshore inspection, port security, and environmental monitoring, where common navigation, collision avoidance, and power management subsystems are interchangeable. Homeland Security Surveillance. The Homeland Security title allocates $6.17 billion for Customs and Border Protection to deploy autonomous surveillance towers, AI video analytics, and biometric data systems along the southern border. A further $2.77 billion targets cutting-edge surveillance technologies, including drones and advanced sensors. These sums dwarf previous CBP tech budgets and will likely ignite demand for long-endurance multirotors, BVLOS waivers, and integrated counter-UAS solutions, areas where commercial drone companies already excel. Market outlook. Supply chain reshoring. By guaranteeing large volume government orders, the bill de-risks domestic production of flight-critical components, airframes, avionics, secure radios, helping U.S. firms compete with lower-cost Asian manufacturers. Standards acceleration. Open architecture mandates in CCA and naval programs will push common communication and payload interfaces that can migrate into civil standards for urban air mobility and cargo UAVs. Service model growth. The border security funding favors turnkey surveillance services, rewarding drone-as-a-service providers with robust training pipelines and CONOPS experience. Autonomy validation. AI funding streams provide real-world datasets and test ranges, shortening certification cycles for detect and avoid, swarming, and GNSS denied navigation, capabilities critical to routine BVLOS operations. Bottom line, stripped of political theatrics, the Big Beautiful Bill represents the single largest U.S. federal commitment to unmanned systems since the Reaper era. For the commercial and dual-use drone industry, it promises near-term contract opportunities, a domestically fortified supply chain, and faster maturation of autonomy technologies that will ultimately enable wider civil adoption. Read more. The drones the U.S. military is looking for now. Drone industry funding shifts. Military applications take center stage. Ukraine's rapid drone production offers a lesson for U.S. lawmakers.